Greetings and welcome back. I'm George Duncan. I'd like to explain a little bit more about our local government, our city government, and how it's formed. And all of this information is really available to you at your fingertips, and we've discussed that in the previous video. CoppersCoveTX.gov, and that's our city's website, so all this is available there. Or you can actually go to tml.org, which a bulk of this information I got, and that's the Texas Municipal League, a collection of services and support geared towards municipalities throughout the great state of Texas. Now, to understand our city government, it does require some knowledge of local governments. So let's talk briefly about counties, school districts, and types of city governments. You know, something I didn't know, that in Texas, there's 1,216 incorporated cities. 246 of those have a population of 10,000 or more. 68 have at least 50,000, and surprising to me, 35 have in excess of 100,000 residents. Now, what surprised me was that Texas is the second most populated state, only surpassed by California. We have 254 counties, 1,089 school districts. We have 2,245 special districts. Now, this is important because these units of government, which they have taxing authority within certain boundaries, just like Coppers Cove. And another good example is the Coppers Cove Independent School District. So if you look at your annual tax receipt, you'll notice, depending on where you live, several taxing authorities that are listed and the rate at which you're taxed. Now, each of these entities have taxing authority. They were established by the citizens that voted for their establishment, and therefore they answer to the citizens through the ballot box. Now, there are other methods to be heard, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But of that 254 counties, that has remained constant for about 100 years, while the number of cities is increasing at an average of about 10 per year. So let's talk about our county, Coryell County, and its makeup. Now, counties are known as general purpose governments, and that's due to the many different functions that they perform. Now, counties serve the dual purpose of providing governmental services for the benefits of their residents and administrative services on behalf of the state. Major governmental services include road construction and maintenance, jails and courts, welfare, health, and law enforcement. But the administrative duties and those services that are performed by the county, they perform as agents of the state. And they include things like, voter registration and motor vehicle licensing. Which really brings us to special districts. Now, schools and many of the other types of special districts are known as single purpose. Now, they're single purpose governments since they usually perform just one function, such as education, water supply, or hospital care. And really, they're normally limited to a limited geographical area, but they were created because of the inability of the general purpose governments to provide a particular service. Cities. Now, we talked about this before, and your city government is the one that's closest to you and affects your life on a daily basis. So it tends to be the most important form of government that you should be involved in. But cities do perform the greatest number of functions, both governmental and proprietary. Now, state law specifically defines and lists certain activities as either governmental or proprietary. The law lists 36 functions that are governmental. Included among them are police, fire protection, health and sanitation services, street construction and design, transportation systems, establishment and maintenance of jails, and enforcement of land restrictions. 3 functions that are listed as proprietary are the operation and maintenance of public utilities, amusements owned and operated by a city, and then anything that's really considered abnormally dangerous or ultra hazardous. So that's what cities do. Now, there's 2 types of cities, 2 categories. There's a home rule, and then there's a general law city. And there's a distinct difference between the two. Coppers Cove happens to be a home rule city. And home rule cities are normally larger than 5,000 inhabitants, which the citizens have adopted a home rule charter, and this city has done that. And the charter is a document that establishes the city's government, the structure, and provides for the distribution of powers and duties among the various branches. So that's really what it's all about. So you've got those two forms. Now the legal position of a home rule city is really opposite of a general law city. Now general law cities do look at the state to determine what they can do. But a home rule city, the home rule city actually just looks at the Constitution and the state statutes to determine what they may not do. So in a home rule city, if an action that the city wants to take has not been prohibited or preempted by the state, the city can generally proceed. Now, general law cities are limited to doing whatever the state authorizes or permits them to do. And approximately 75% of all Texas cities operate under the general laws. The remainder are like our city, home rule cities. The home rule concept is more important to us because that's what we operate under. Now, although there's been many ways to try to describe this, the description of a home rule principle is pretty simple. The home rule is the right of the citizens at the grassroots level to manage their own affairs with minimum interference from the state. Home rule assumes that the government problems should be solved at the lowest possible level, closest to the people. Now, home rule cities do look to the state to tell them what they are prohibited from doing, rather than for specific grants of authority in which they can do. So, home rule cities have a whole lot of flexibility. Now, they also have some inherent authority to do just about anything that qualifies as public purpose and is not contrary to the Constitution or to the laws of the state. Now, you do have influence in what goes on in your city, and there are ways that you can affect that. Now, a couple of the inherent powers in a home rule city are the initiative, a referendum, and a recall. And so you've got these three possibilities in the home rule. And it's exclusive powers that's given to the local voters in order to provide direct remedies in unusual situations. Now, there's no constitutional or statutory authority for the initiative, a referendum, or a recall. These powers are unique to home rule cities, and they are not available to voters in any other level of government, including the state. Of the home rule city, there's really two forms. And well, we're just going to spend our time on the one that we're more concerned with. There's a mayor council, and then there's a council manager form. Now, among the 351 home rule cities that we have, the vast majority are just like ours. It's a council manager form of government. Now, in the council manager plan, the basic structure of the council in the council manager form is similar to that of a private corporation that you may be familiar with, where the stockholders elect a board of directors, and then the board of directors hires a president to run the company, just like your council hires a city manager to run the affairs of the city. So, the city manager really controls the administrative duties and the day-to-day affairs of the city. Now, in a council manager city, as in other cities, the council serves as the legislative body. The council sets policy, it approves a budget, sets a tax rate, it determines the size and the payroll and extent and the cost of municipal services. In short, the council is the final authority on all of the many policy decisions that determine the scope and the function of the city government. And under that council manager plan, the mayor and council members have no administrative duties. These are all vested in the city manager, who's responsible for directing the workforce and programs of the city, and it's all in accordance with ordinance and rules and the regulations that are adopted by the council. The typical manager in Texas is appointed for an indefinite term, and I'm not sure we all understood that before, and is subject to dismissal by the council at any time. He or she is designated by either the charter or by ordinance as the chief executive administrative officer of the city and is accountable to the council for proper conduct of all municipal operations. The manager has a unilateral authority to hire, discipline, and fire the department heads. And in some cases, however, certain employees, such as the city attorney and the municipal judge, are directly hired and or supervised by the council rather than the manager. And that is also the case in your city. Now, although the city manager's roles from one city to another may vary in some way, shape, or form, they are all very, very similar because they are the CEO of your city. So understand that the city manager runs the operations of your city, but it's controlled by the influence and the direction received by the entire body of the city council. So, hope this has made sense to you and hope it really kind of clears a couple of things up. We are a home rule city and we are a proud city. So stay tuned for the next video and we'll cover another topic. Thank you.